I'm here with Sophia Hart from Clean Energy Transitions. Sophia, what is it that you do?
What do we do? Well, we set up a hedge fund about 2 years ago called Clean Energy Transition, although it was a transition from Lansdowne Partners. So we set up an energy strategy at Lansdowne in 2015. And so we've been managing since then two funds. One is a hedge fund with assets of about $1.7 billion. And then we also have a long-only fund with assets of about $800 to $900 million, depending on what markets are doing at the moment. They're very volatile.
They are indeed.
Yes, so we're a small team, and what I should say is that given the topic of the conference, the second fund, the long-only fund, is an ESG fund. The hedge fund is not an ESG fund, but we apply an ESG overlay on all our investment decisions.
So let's dive into the ESG component now. So what is it that you're doing with regards to ESG that makes it different to something else?
Yes. So we first looked at, how to approach it, and very early on we were not interested in using all these metrics that they are around, especially that often they're filled by people who don't know the companies themselves. So we set up a framework at the start of the launch of the long-only fund, and we have a three-step process. There is an exclusion list, and then this can be very controversial in terms of fossil fuel or not. But overall, we don't have fossil fuel in that fund, but we do in the hedge fund. And then we have a sort of proprietary analysis where we really look at how companies are tackling ESG, and whether they are aware of it, do they have a plan, how effective is the plan, and then try to monitor how that plan is going. And then there's the ongoing monitoring, voting. We're not activists. However, we like having a dialogue with companies. So we meet on average about 400, I was going to say 400 companies. No, we have 400 meetings per year with companies, but often it will be the same companies, especially if we have them in the portfolio. So trying to understand obviously how they manage, what the culture is. And then the other thing we do is we put a lot of emphasis on site visits, going on site to see whether whatever the CEO or the C-suite is saying is actually happening, and not to visit offices, but going on the factory floor, looking, trying to see whatever we can get. For instance, is it clean? Is there a good atmosphere? How is security integrated in the company? There's so much that you can learn by going on site, in particular for mining.
Yeah, so let's talk about mining then,
Yes.
because of course mining as a sector is massively diverse, be it in terms of whether you're talking about exploration companies through to full-blown operators, the different types of commodity, the geographical spread. What do you like to look for?
So to start with, we only invest in what we call green commodities. So anything to do with the value chain for the clean energy transition. So it's going to be copper, it's going to be lithium, it might be nickel. So that's what we're looking at. We're not investing in iron ore or steel. I mean, it could be into green steel, for instance, but that's the focus. And there it's interesting because we've had actually quite a different view from consensus that we're not going to have enough metals. And we've done a lot of work and realized that we actually have plenty, at least for now. Things can change, but people tend to underestimate the how do you call it, the intensity of use, let's say, which increases with, which decreases with the technology. Yeah? So people put some numbers saying, in EVs you're going to need, X kilograms of copper. Well, that was 5 years ago. Now it has actually moved on. Same with wind turbines. The only area where there's probably not much difference is on transmission lines, but again, there's a lot of substitution into aluminium there. So aluminium would be also an area that we would be looking at. And I think what we have to do, and we have seen a number of examples, is there's a lot of hype in this industry, a lot of hype in the clean energy transition. People get excited about technology. And like you, I have a bit of a background in mining, and there's one thing I know, new technology takes a long time to be developed. So whenever there is a company coming saying we've got this new smelting technology or recovery, everybody around me, mainly men, I have to say, get super excited, and I just put a cold shower on them and say, no, let me look at it. Not because I know the technology, I just know that new technology often does not work in mining, or it takes 10 to 15 years. So there's a lot of hype, and that's why you have to be very careful. I remember one of my clients many, many years ago used to say in fund management, it's not about getting all the winners, it's about avoiding all the losers. And there's plenty of losers in this industry.
One final question for you then, in terms of making sure that you try not to get all the losers. What is it that mining could do to try and reduce some of that uncertainty, so therefore it makes it easier for you to invest in them, or perhaps see past the hype that is so common across the sector?
Yes. Well, it's an interesting question. So I think it's probably a slightly different tack. So I think what would be good in mining, and we are seeing it, is we heard, this is oil and gas. We heard Equinor talking about using electricity on their oil and gas platform. We had a non-executive of Rio, who was at Shell obviously before. To me, in Australia, the obvious thing is to have solar panels for generating the electricity instead of diesel. So that's happening. The same is happening also in Chile for many of the copper operations. So I think mining companies have lots of abilities to reduce their CO2 emissions by using electric vehicles. I think it's quite hard for some of the very large trucks, but gradually it's amazing what they can do. Also the optimizing of those trucks thanks to GPS and sensors, which reduces the CO2 emissions of those trucks. So there's a lot which can be done on the existing operations rather than coming up with some new technology. I mean, if we get a new technology, great, but I tend to be quite skeptical on them.
So to bounce this back at you perhaps then, if you're looking or reviewing an organisation or a company to potentially invest in, you're actually looking for tangible action that's already been delivered on to perhaps give you that sense of security that, okay, yeah, they might be talking about a piece of technology, but the fact that they're already doing a lot, does that make you feel a bit more secure?
Yes, absolutely. Or a company which is planning to do it. It might be, most companies are aware and should have done something by now. But in some countries, you don't have those opportunities. So you have to be quite open-minded. But yes, I want to, it's just, I remember visiting so many mines around the world, and just a mine which is badly managed, which is dirty, runs badly, the logistics. We heard about Valley being all about logistics. Mining is about logistics everywhere. So if you reduce your footprint, your CO2 footprint, thanks to optimizing logistic, then that's also a win. So it's a whole chain between using clean electricity, reducing your diesel consumption, whether it comes from power generation or from trucks or trains. I mean, in Australia we have a lot of trains, and then optimizing the logistics themselves. There's a lot which can be done.
Fantastic. So with that, thank you so much, Sophia.
You're
Have
welcome.
a lovely rest of the week.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.